Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. It was a cold, foggy morning on the crowded New York subway. Hurried passengers crowded around the doors, each lost in thought or glued to their phone. Among them was Alyssa Thompson, a young black woman wearing a stylish black coat, clutching her leather satchel tightly and making her way to an empty seat. Beside her, a frail old woman, her silver hair pulled back in a bun, peered at the seat with a hint of worry in her eyes. Alyssa, noticing her hesitation, stood up with a warm smile. "You can take my place, madam." The old woman, surprised by this unexpected gesture, murmured an almost inaudible thank you and sat down, visibly relieved. Alyssa stepped back into the crowded carriage, holding onto the metal bar, her heart light despite the stifling crowd. A few minutes later, as the subway slowed down for a stop, the old woman leaned gently toward Alyssa and handed her a small, folded envelope. Intrigued, Alyssa opened it immediately. Inside was a carefully handwritten note. "Dear Alyssa, this kind gesture has just turned my day, and my life upside down. What you don't know is that I work for a foundation that helps ambitious young women achieve their dreams. I want you to contact me. Your kindness deserves to be rewarded. Margaret L." Alyssa froze, her breath catching in her throat. 10 minutes earlier, she had simply given up a seat on a crowded subway, and now, that simple action could change her life forever. The subway finally pulled into 42nd Street and Alyssa stepped off with the crowd, still reeling from the mysterious note. Her heart was pounding, and she couldn't stop rereading Margaret's words in her head. Your kindness deserves to be rewarded. Those simple sentences resonated like a promise, an unexpected breath of hope in her often monotonous life. She walked quickly, the note clutched in her hand, to the station exit. The autumn sun illuminated the Manhattan skyscrapers, but Alyssa felt as if she were walking in a waking dream. Who was this woman? And how could such a simple action have such an impact? Once home, Alyssa made herself a coffee and sat down at her small kitchen table. She took out her laptop and typed in the email address Margaret had left at the bottom of the note. The message she wrote was simple, but sincere. Hello Margaret. Thank you for your note this morning on the subway. Your gesture touched me deeply and I would love to know more. Sincerely, Alyssa Thompson. Several hours passed without a response. Alyssa felt nervous, but at the same time excited. She had the feeling that something big was about to happen. That evening, as she was getting ready for bed, her phone vibrated. It was an email from Margaret. Dear Alyssa, I'm delighted with your response. Could you meet with me tomorrow at 2 p.m. in my office on Madison Avenue? I have a lot to tell you, and I sincerely believe this meeting could be the start of something extraordinary for you. Margaret L. Alyssa reread the message 3 times. Her mind was racing. How could a stranger possibly know she was looking for a job opportunity? And why did this chance encounter on the subway seem so destined? That night, Alyssa barely slept, her imagination running wild. She thought of all the possibilities, a mentor, funding for her projects, maybe even a new career. She didn't yet know that this encounter would change her life in ways she could never have imagined. The next day, Alyssa woke up early, her heart pounding. She got ready carefully, choosing a professional but simple outfit, a black suit and a cream shirt, her hair neatly tied back. She needed to make a good impression, even though she had absolutely no idea what to expect. At 1:50 p.m., she arrived in front of an imposing glass building on Madison Avenue. The reflections of the sun on the windows gave the place an almost unreal aura. Overcome by a mixture of excitement and apprehension, she entered the lobby, where an elegant receptionist greeted her. Hello, can I help you? Yes, I've come to meet Margaret L., replied Alyssa, her voice slightly trembling. The receptionist typed a few keys on her keyboard, then nodded. Very well, she'll be waiting for you on the 8th floor. Take the elevator. Alyssa took the elevator, each floor bringing her closer to that mysterious destiny. When the doors opened, she found herself in a bright, modern corridor. She knocked softly on the door of the office bearing the name, Margaret L. Lumen Foundation. "Come in." A soft but authoritative voice echoed from inside. Alyssa opened the door and was immediately struck by the decor, a spacious office, modern artwork on the walls, and behind a large, solid wood desk, an elegant woman of about 60, with impeccably styled silver hair. Her piercing blue eyes gazed at Alyssa with a mixture of curiosity and warmth. "Alyssa, welcome," said Margaret, getting up to shake her hand. "Thank you for having me. I wasn't expecting." Alyssa paused, overcome with emotion. Margaret smiled, with a calmness that commanded respect. "You have nothing to expect, Alyssa. You just did the right thing this morning on the subway. And sometimes, that's enough to change a life." Then Margaret invited her to sit down and began to tell her story. She ran the Lumen Foundation, an organization that supported ambitious young women, particularly those from modest backgrounds or facing obstacles. And Margaret had a gift for spotting potential in people, even in the simplest gestures. "You showed kindness and consideration for someone who needed it," Margaret explained. "That says a lot about your character. And I believe someone like you deserves a chance to shine." Alyssa listened, fascinated. Her hands trembled slightly as she held her bag on her lap. She didn't yet know that this encounter would offer her not only a unique professional opportunity, but also a powerful personal connection with Margaret, who would guide her life in ways she could never have imagined. Margaret then bent down and handed him a thick file. "I want you to see this project. If you're interested, I want you to lead it. But be warned, it won't be easy." Alyssa picked up the file, feeling the symbolic weight as much as the real weight of the pages. Her heart raced. This gesture on the subway had just transformed into an opportunity that could change her life forever. The following days were intense for Alyssa. She had agreed to join the Lumen Foundation and oversee a project aimed at providing scholarships and resources to ambitious young women. But from day one, she understood that the road ahead would be far from easy. Margaret introduced her to the team, made up of experienced and sometimes demanding professionals, education experts, financiers, and project coordinators. They all seemed respectful, but some looked at Alyssa with skepticism, as if her youth and lack of experience might be an obstacle. The first challenge came the very next day. Alyssa had to present a strategic plan at an important meeting. Her hands trembled slightly as she projected her slides onto the screen. The heavy silence of the room accentuated every word she spoke. "Your approach is interesting, Alyssa," said one of the directors, Mr. Collins, his voice full of doubt. "But have you ever managed a project of this scale before?" Alyssa took a deep breath. She remembered the subway, the old woman, and the promise Margaret had implicitly made by choosing her. She raised her head and replied confidently. "No, I've never led a project of this size. But I know how to listen, learn, and work with those who have more experience than me. And I'm ready to give my best to make this project a success." A silence followed her answer. Then Margaret, sitting at the back of the room, nodded with a slight smile. The skepticism gradually dissipated. Some members of the team, impressed by her courage and determination, began to offer their support. But the real test came a few days later. Alyssa discovered that some financial files had been mishandled, and that a delay in registrations risked jeopardizing the entire project. She felt overwhelmed, but Margaret stayed by her side. "Alyssa, true strength isn't seen when everything is easy. It reveals itself in the moments when you have to put everything back in order despite the obstacles. You can do it." Motivated by Margaret's words, Alyssa spent sleepless nights analyzing figures, contacting partners, and reorganizing the plan. Her mind was weary, but her courage remained undiminished. And by the end of the week, thanks to her hard work, the project was underway and ready to welcome its first applicants. This experience was a turning point for Alyssa. She understood that the kindness she had shown on the subway was just the beginning of a journey where determination, resilience, and courage were equally crucial. And above all, she realized that Margaret was not only a mentor, but also someone capable of recognizing and nurturing the potential of others, sometimes through a simple act of kindness. A few weeks after the project's launch, Alyssa felt things were starting to take shape. Registrations were pouring in, the applicants were motivated, and the team was beginning to respect her for her hard work and leadership. Yet, an underlying tension hung in the air. Some financial partners were starting to ask difficult questions about the source of the funding, and Alyssa sensed something was wrong. One afternoon, Margaret called him into her office. His face was serious, but his blue eyes still shone with calm wisdom. "Alyssa, I believe the time has come to reveal something to you." Intrigued, Alyssa sat down opposite Margaret. "I know you've been wondering why I chose you, why a simple act of kindness on the subway was enough for me to offer you this opportunity," Margaret began. "The truth is, I've been observing you for a while, even before this meeting. I've heard about you through your community work and your initiatives to help young people in your neighborhood. But I wanted to see if you were capable of showing compassion in simple and unexpected situations." Alyssa was speechless. She had never imagined that her small act of kindness was being observed and evaluated. Margaret continued. "I don't offer opportunities to just anyone. I'm looking for people with heart, integrity, and the ability to persevere despite obstacles. You demonstrated those qualities that morning." Alyssa felt a wave of emotion rising within her. She remembered that moment on the subway, and now she understood how crucial that seemingly insignificant gesture had been. But the secret didn't end there. Margaret handed him an additional file. "I must also warn you, Alyssa. Some of our financial partners do not have good intentions. They are seeking to control the project for their own personal gain. You will need to remain vigilant." Alyssa took the file and carefully reviewed the names and documents. Her heart sank when she saw how precious the project was, and how threatened it could be. But at the same time, she felt ready. "You are not alone in this fight," Margaret said, placing her hand on Alyssa's. "Together, we can protect what we have created and ensure that this project truly helps those who need it." That day, Alyssa understood that kindness and courage could open doors, but perseverance and vigilance were essential to transforming those opportunities into lasting success. And above all, she realized that chance doesn't always exist. Sometimes, life places the right people in your path at the right time, and it's up to each individual to seize that opportunity. The following weeks were grueling. Alyssa had to navigate tense meetings with financial partners, resolve internal team conflicts, and ensure that candidate registrations ran smoothly. Every decision seemed crucial, and every mistake could jeopardize the project. Yet, Alyssa kept Margaret's words and that simple gesture on the subway that had changed her life in mind. She faced each challenge with determination and empathy, gradually earning everyone's respect and trust. The team began to rally behind her, impressed by her intelligence, patience, and ability to motivate others. One morning, Margaret invited him into her office, a radiant smile on her face. "Alyssa, I have a surprise for you." She handed her a sealed envelope, similar to the one the old woman had given her on the subway. Alyssa's heart was pounding. She opened the envelope and found a check covering the entire cost of the project, along with a letter. "Alyssa, you have proven that kindness is not just a fleeting gesture, but a force capable of transforming lives. Thanks to your dedication and courage, this project will be able to help hundreds of ambitious young women. Thank you for believing in yourself and in this dream. Margaret L." With tears in her eyes, Alyssa understood that her simple decision to give up her seat on the subway had triggered a chain of events that changed her life and the lives of many others. She realized that kindness, when combined with perseverance and courage, could open unexpected doors. That day, Alyssa felt ready to continue her work with even more passion. But she also understood something deeper: life rewards those who show compassion, sometimes in unexpected ways, and that every little gesture counts. And as she left the office that evening, Alyssa thought back to the subway, to that old woman, and to what a few minutes of kindness had sparked. She smiled, ready to continue on her way, aware that life could be as surprising as it was beautiful for those who dare to give without expecting anything in return.